Hello, this is Susan the Maven from the Spicy Boudoir, and welcome to another episode of the Maven's Private Diaries. I'm all about smashing taboos around topics that we don't normally talk about in the open, and my guest today is the delicious Kate Toon. I say delicious because Kate is a beautiful mix of intellect and humour, which she combines for her business, Kate Toon Copywriting. I'm sorry, Kate, that's probably not the right business name, but she is the business. She's an author. If you grab her book, Confessions of a Misfit Entrepreneur, that was a very important step in my own business journey. We talked throughout about business, how vibrators should be standard issue for women. We talked about the pressure for women to be sexy and desirable, our experiences of having dishonest sex. And if you listen carefully, Kate even discloses that she went to a special masterclass. And I'll tell you what, that's worth listening in. So stick around for that. Make sure that you give us some feedback. We really want to bring you the conversations that you want to hear. So please leave a review on your favourite listening app. All right, let's take it away with Ms. Kate Toon.
Thank you for joining the Maven's Private Diaries, brought to you by thespicyboudoir.com, purveyor of high-quality, premium body-safe pleasure products for the over 50s and people living with a disability.
Hi, my name is Susan, and these are my private diaries. Occasionally I will host a guest speaker or read out someone else's diary, with their permission, of course.
Content warning.
This podcast contains the occasional swear word, lewd comments and discussion around sex.
Warning, warning.
You will no doubt hear the emotional pangs of a woman who has lost her libido to menopause. Listen at your own risk and enjoy. Hello, this is Susan the Maven from the Spicy Boudoir, and welcome to another episode of the Maven's Private Diaries. I'm all about smashing taboos around topics that we don't normally talk about in the open. And my guest today is the delicious Kate Toon. I say delicious because Kate is a beautiful mix of intellect and humour, which she combines for her business, Kate Toon Copywriting. I'm sorry, Kate, that's probably not the right business name, but she is the business. She's an author. If you grab her book, Confessions of a Misfit Entrepreneur, that was a very important step in my own business journey. We talked throughout about business, how vibrators should be standard issue for women. We talked about the pressure for women to be sexy and desirable, our experiences of having dishonest sex. And if you listen carefully, Kate even discloses that she went to a special masterclass. And I'll tell you what, that's worth listening in. So stick around for that. Make sure that you give us some feedback. We really want to bring you the conversations that you want to hear. So please leave a review on your favourite listening app. All right, let's take it away with Ms. Kate Toon.
Thank you for joining the Maven's Private Diaries, brought to you by thespicyboudoir.com, purveyor of high-quality, premium body-safe pleasure products for the over 50s and people living with a disability.
Hi, my name is Susan, and these are my private diaries. Occasionally I will host a guest speaker or read out someone else's diary, with their permission, of course.
Content warning.
This podcast contains the occasional swear word, lewd comments and discussion around sex.
Warning, warning.
You will no doubt hear the emotional pangs of a woman who has lost her libido to menopause. Listen at your own risk and enjoy. Hello, Miss Kate Toon. Thank you very much for joining the Maven studio this morning.
Hello, Suze.
How are
good.
you?
I love that voice, that velvety voice. It's very good for a podcast.
I think we should do the whole interview in our sexy,
In our Marilyn Monroe voices,
radio
our
voice.
breathy voices. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Oh, look, I'm so delighted that you've made time to talk to me because, I've been stalking you and fangirling you for such a long time in my business journey. And for those people listening who not sure who Kate Toon is, she's very much the world's probably one of the top. I don't want to say the top because that's such a high thing to push you off or to make you feel embarrassed, but Kate is one of the best copywriters across the universe and has been a big influence on my business journey, starting up the Spicy Boudoir and coming to the table and talking to people directly through socials and all that sort of stuff. So Kate, what do you do? What is copywriting?
Oh, thank you. I think I'm the top copywriter in my universe, in the Tooniverse, just me and no one else. I mean, these days I'm no longer a working copywriter. I was for several years, but these days I teach copywriting, I teach SEO, I teach digital marketing. So these days I don't actually have any clients anymore. But unfortunately, I have one client who's the worst, which is myself. So I do an awful lot of writing for myself. So I'm probably pumping out 20 to 30,000 words a week, but it's for myself, for my business, for my socials and emails. And then the rest of the time is, education now. It's all courses and templates and memberships. So I've moved into that whole, I'm doing air fingers for the listeners, passive income zone. Although, as you know, there's absolutely nothing passive about it.
No, you've got to do the work to make it happen. Oh, it sounds good. And how long have you been in business?
So I started my own business literally while I was pregnant with my son. So I was about 5 months pregnant. I was working in agency as pretty much a general manager or digital director of an agency. And I was contracting. So I knew I wasn't going to get any kind of maternity leave, had no money saved up. So I jumped ship at about 5 months and started CateToon.com. And at that point, I didn't really know what I was going to be doing. And I did a bit of everything. And that was, my son just turned 13. So just 13 and a half-ish years ago is how long I've been doing this.
Go.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's been quite a journey for you then. How have you stayed sane during that time?
Haven't, Susan. Come on. Do we stay sane? All the worst. Best people are slightly mad, I think. Look, as you said, it's been a journey. There's been good times and bad times. I actually was on my phone the other day looking back at videos that I made back in 2014 and kind of feeling kind of affectionate, but kind of feeling a bit sorry for Kate Toon in 2014 and also proud of what I was doing then and how it's got me here now. Such a journey, so many ups and downs, and definitely very little sanity along the way.
I asked the question, but how do you stay sane? Because I know it's helped me stay sane over the years, particularly during when I was married and very unhappy. I'd let go of myself as a woman during that time. And at the age of 35, I bought my very first vibrator.
I know, we're there already,
really
people. We're 3 minutes in and we've already said the V word. I love it. I need more coffee. Hang on. Sorry, keep going.
I'm starting to think vibrators, they should be standard issue to women when you turn 18. So here you go.
Thank you.
This is medicine.
I like that.
So I guess, without diving too deep into your sex life and all of that, I really just want to tap on to a woman's sexual energy and using it for resilience, like just to keep your resilience buoyed. Have you found that experience? Like, has your sexual energy fallen off during those times of stress? And you just totally leave it alone, or do you pursue it?
Really, really interesting question. And I'll be honest, first time anyone's ever asked me that. So let me think. I mean, I think, when I first met my husband, probably about 15, 16 years ago, I felt like a relatively sexual beast. What's going on? Oh, sorry. Things are going on in the background, people. And here's me trying to talk about sex. It's already hard enough, Susan. Good Lord.
Sorry. It's actually my pussy. My cat's making a noise behind me. Just a second.
Okay. Gosh, people. We've had pussies and vibrators, and we're only 5 minutes in. It's full on. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm British. This is okay. Where were we? What were we talking about? Sexual energy. Yes.
Sexual energy, husband.
It's ebbed and flowed. I mean, look, while I've had a lot of sex in my life, I don't think I've ever thought of myself as a particularly sexual person, to be honest. And I think, after you've had a child, various things change. You don't feel as sexy. All your bits that you were using for pleasure are now being used for other reasons. I put on a lot of, I did quite well after I had Orion. I managed to kind of get back in shape because obviously that's the pressure that was on you. And I remember I ran a half marathon and things were pretty good, but I was really trying to be me pre-baby. Like I wasn't acknowledging the fact that things had changed. I was trying to revert back. And a lot of that was to do with having a partner and wanting to be attractive and wanting to be fun. So it wasn't really for me. It was for someone else. And honestly, it didn't work because honestly, with me and my partner, once I had my son, things changed dramatically. It's like he just did not see me as a sexual entity anymore. I was a mother, and that was the end of that. And then, when you feel rejected by your partner like that, I think you do lose your sense of being a sexy beast and being a woman. I put on an awful lot of weight, not to say that that's not sexy, but it felt unsexy to me. I didn't take much pride in my appearance. I just felt like a blob, neither male nor female, just a blob of slightly miserable humanity. And really, it wasn't till about 3 or 4 years ago that I managed to start finding myself again, and reclaiming myself as a human and as a female. And so, yes, it's not necessarily much to do with business, although I think that's another side to discuss. In my personal life, I think it's been a real journey of feeling sexual and non-sexual. In business, I don't know if I've ever connected the two, that my sexuality has any influence on my business, to be honest. I don't know if I've ever thought about it in that lens, but it's an interesting question.
Oh, I put it out there because myself, like my business is about sex and sexuality. And here I am about to turn 55. And lately I haven't been feeling like having sex at all. And I know that that's a product of my being in a state of menopause now, having gone through perimenopause since my early 40s. And I have learned, and I have to keep reminding myself, the fact that I don't walk around, feeling horny doesn't mean I don't want or need to be sexual. I just need to make the time and book in a time with my darling. And just put in the effort because, once I get started, after a little bit of good foreplay, I'm there. I have to keep reminding myself. And I really want other women to know that, yes, you're not going to walk around with a buzz in your clitoris wanting to be sexual. I'd love to have that feeling again. I used to love, feeling horny. But you can get horny after spending some time, and your arousal becomes responsive, I guess is what I'm trying to say, rather than that spontaneous. But I feel really good when I invest time in myself, and it does lift me up. It's great for my mental health to be sexual, whether I orgasm or not. And there we go, Kate. Orgasm, pussy, vibrator,
we've done them all. Clitoris. It's I mean, I love that you're talking about this because, I'm 48. I don't really know whether I'm perimenopausal or not because it's a bit of a mystery ground, isn't it? And there's no definite, it's not so black and white as we'd like it to be. I separated from my partner about 3 or 4 years ago and met a new partner. And literally, it was like I'd had a shot of adrenaline, for that first year, 2 years. It was like everything was switched back on again. Things felt perkier. Everything was, like you said, walking around in a state of just feeling thrilled all the time. Those endorphins pulsing through you. Even just the thought of having sex would kind of send that kind of shiver of excitement through me. And obviously, as time goes on, that's waned a bit. And like you, I miss it. And I'm slightly terrified of menopause because I'm like, that's a big part of my life and I don't want to lose that. But equally, like you, I think a big change for me has been sex is much less of a performance than it used to be. I think I had quite honestly quite dishonest sex. Not that I'd watched porn and learned anything from porn, because I've never really been a huge porn watcher, but you know, there's always this thing that you've got to be oohing and ahhing and arching your back and waving your bits around to entertain your partner with, and then you lose track of what you're actually enjoying. And I think one thing I'm starting to let go of at this age is I can't be bothered to perform. You know, it's not a performance. It's you know, why it's not to pleasure that person and give them a visual. It's for me as well. And I think that's taking a bit of pressure off. And I also very much agree with you that you have to, sounds awful in a way, but like with all the things that are worthwhile doing, you have to push yourself. It's a business analogy as well. Yes. You have to push yourself. Like, it's not like I wake up every morning and want to go for a swim. No, I have to push myself. And do I enjoy the drive to the pool? Do I enjoy getting out of bed at 6:30? No. But do I enjoy swimming? Yes. And do I enjoy the feeling afterwards? Yes. And the same is with business, and the same is with sex. I read a great thing the other day that said, you know, all the things that are worth doing that give you true dopamine and true happy chemicals, you get the chemicals after you do them, not before a while. So like drinking alcohol, all of that, it's the anticipation. You enjoy it while you're doing it, but you feel awful afterwards. Most other things, you get the pleasure after. It's almost afterwards that you get the pleasure or the reward, you know? So I think I'm babbling now, but yeah, I think it's interesting. And the push making time and pushing yourself and getting started is important.
Yes. And I'm actually just drafting a piece about pushing through that, you know, like obviously, I mean, one of the issues for many couples is a mismatch level of libido and desire. And it does impact your relationship. Being intimate is, you know, a love language.
Absolutely.
And if you're out of sync with each other, and it can be, it's not always the woman who's like, no, sorry, I've got a headache. Sometimes it's the guy. So,
yeah, and I think with that, there's a lot of give and take in a relationship. And the mistake I made in my first big relation, or my marriage, was that I was like, if I don't want to, I shouldn't have to. You know, like with sex, you know, if I don't want to, I shouldn't have to. If I don't want to, that's fine. But relationships are a give and take. And, you know, sex is a hugely intimate act, and obviously no one should be doing it if they desperately don't want to. But sometimes you're just a bit like meh, and you have to push yourself a little bit, because that's the give and take of your partner with your partner. Maybe they don't want to sit and give you a foot rub or stroke your hair or whatever, but that's the intimacy you need. And I do think a lot of men struggle with other types of intimacy, and really just sex is the only intimacy they understand. And if you deny them that because you can't be bothered, but you expect them to still do all the things that you want to do, all the intimate acts you want, they still, you know, I think that's unfair. And I think that's the mistake I made in my last relationship. And in this one, I make so much more effort, as you said, to make time, to maybe push through the first initial, I can't be bothered, I'm too tired, and push through that, because it's worth it. And that's what I owe my partner. Like, it's a give and take, you know?
Here's a tip for people listening. Hopefully there's some guys listening here. In my relationship, this is my third long-term relationship of my adult life. And my first two relationships obviously didn't work because there was so much missing on all levels, intellectual, emotional intelligence, social intelligence, all of that. So in this relationship, I was very clear from the very start, I'm in this to make an effort, and I've done mediocre. So, like, you know, someone actually, sorry to digress, but somebody said to me the other day, they thought I was having sex every day because
that's what you talk about. Yeah.
I said, no, I don't. You know, probably if I did the numbers, probably once a week, maybe twice a week, but at the moment it's probably once a fortnight. But what I want to say to guys is, you gave me this thought when you said about foot rubs, because I get my feet rubbed every day. on the lounge watching television and my feet are getting massaged and rubbed. Going to sleep at night time, I tend to be the one to go to sleep first, and my partner's reading. He's stroking my back until I go to sleep. It's like, you know, how lucky am I? Go into the shower, and when your partner is having a shower, offer to wash them and like loofah their body. So I actually booked in a back wash this morning. I said, "Oh, can you please come and wash my back tonight?" You know, just, you know, have someone do that for you. Creates that space. It's like, rather than inviting someone to be sexual when you're lying in bed, put that invite when you're in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner. You know, come up behind your partner and smooch into their neck, or start whispering sweet nothings into their ear.
It's so important, isn't it?
You can't just leave the
like, you know,
until the bedroom.
And it changes in time. Like, you know, my partner's, you know, as you said, I hope you won't mind me saying this, but he's got a huge sex drive, and, you know, it's sometimes I'm a bit like, oh Christ, you know, here we go. You know, and you go to bed and I'm like lying there thinking, like, almost like I'm on some kind of sacrificial plinth, and we laugh about it, you know, because I'm like, oh God, it's about to happen. But the nights when it's all much easier is when he does come up and give me a squeeze in the kitchen or stroke my hair, because that's all foreplay. Foreplay isn't just, you know, shoving your hands down someone's knickers. It's all of that. And, you know, one thing he does, which is lovely, is when we meet, he just gives me a huge, long bear hug. You know, the kind of hug where you just actually, you feel like this when you start off, your shoulders are clenched, and by the end, you're fully relaxed. And you melt into it. And for me, that's really, really important, because we don't see each other very often. We only see each other every couple of weeks. And so it's, you know, I spend a lot of time being this kind of alpha female, doing things myself and running my business and being a mum, and then trying to shift into this partner mode, you know, and be a completely different, you know, being a mum, being a businesswoman isn't the most sexy thing in the world. Going to Coles every day, making dinner, and then suddenly shifting into this kind of zone where we have no kids around us, we're not working, and now we can be ourselves and we can be sexy. It's like, it doesn't just happen like that. And I need all those little touchy-feely squeezes and hair and bits and bobs and flirtatious conversations and flirtatious texts before we meet, to be ready to be there on the sacrificial plinth at the end of the night. Do you know what I mean? Like, it starts 2 days before you actually get in bed, you know?
That's right. And I think we all forget, women included, there's our physical clitoris in our groin area, but there's our cerebral
clitoris. Hashtag cerebral clitoris. Yes. I love that. There's a new hashtag.
This is where my orgasm lives, in my mind. It's in a room inside my head.
That's a visual image. I can just see like a clitoris sitting on an armchair in a room, reading a book. What? Excellent.
Oh.
Wearing wearing sexy lingerie.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I wish I was an artist. So
you'll find an illustrator to do that. Like the life of the cerebral clitoris. It could be a whole book. It could be Yeah, there we
go. Thank you, Kate. I'm going to follow that up.
So true, though, isn't it?
But
so true. Like tonight, I'm meeting my partner, and one of the things I also notice times when I feel sexy, and they're not always in bed at the end of the day. So I feel sexy. I often feel really positive and happy after I've been for a swim. I feel really positive and happy after I've been to the gym. Like, I love working out. I love, you know, and you spend a lot of time looking at yourself. It's kind of quite weird and vain, but you're looking at yourself, you're looking at your body, you're looking at your muscles. There's some pride there. You feel confident. And so, you know, tonight I've said to my partner, instead of me just coming around, let's have dinner, let's go to the gym tonight. So we're going to meet at the gym. And I think he looks quite sexy when he's working out as well. And then maybe we won't go home and have dinner. Maybe we'll go home, have sex, and then have dinner. You know, like breaking up the routine and also noticing when I feel sexy and acting on it. Because I often say to him, I actually don't feel that sexy at the end of the day. I'm tired. I'm an old woman. I'm knackered. I feel sexy in the afternoon. Can we have some afternoon delight, please? You know, can we change up the schedule? And so, that's really important to me as well.
And honestly, as you age, it's important to be aware of your body and the times of day when you feel sexual. And, you know, and hopefully by that stage you're retired and you've got the opportunity to plan your time into the afternoon delight sessions. There's a thought that just popped into my head, Kate, and it's bloody gone.
It's not about the cerebral clitoris again.
Oh, here we go, the plinth, when you talked about sacrificial plinth. The other thing I talk to women and couples about is we need to also stop thinking about sexual activity as being a penis in vagina activity. Okay, it's so much more than that. I actually can't remember the last time I had sex like that. We tend to look after each other and give each other beautiful massages. So there's, you know, a lingam massage, which is massaging the penis, and yoni, massaging the vulva. It's one of my favourite words.
We need a Maven bingo card, so that every time you listen to the pod, you can tick off each of these words. And if you get all of them in one podcast, then you get a prize.
Yes.
I actually went. This will tickle you, Susan. When I first met my new partner, as I said, I'd not had any kind of sex really for years, you know. And also, as I said, a lot of the sex I'd had in my 20s was drunken and performance based. So when I met my partner, I was like, I'm somebody that likes to be good at stuff, right? So if I'm gonna, you know, learn to roller skate, I'm going to hire a professional roller skater to give me some one-on-one lessons. You know, I'm going to be good at it. I can't bear that bit where you have to be bad at it. So one of the first things I did when I met my partner is I went to Melbourne and I went to a blowjob class, which was illuminating. And this, you know, fantastic sort of middle-aged woman came in and demonstrated for us how to give a blowjob on a baby cucumber. Me and my mate with baby, I can never look at baby cucumbers the same now. And then she brought in some poor bloke, lay him on the floor, and she sort of did things to him, not really sexual, but just like stroked him and did all these things. And it was hilarious, and I'm glad it was hilarious because sex should be funny, I think, sometimes. Yeah. But it was also amazing to actually learn how to do this properly, because men are incredibly bad at explaining what they want you to do, or they just explaining kind of grunts and whatever. So to go to a class and be taught how to do it properly, I tell you, my partner is forever grateful. Yeah. I can't believe I'm talking about this on a podcast. Don't listen to this, Mum. But yeah, I think it's, you know, there's education there as well, and things change and you want to get better at stuff. And as you said, it's not all just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. There's lots of other things you can do.
No, that's right. Have you watched Sex and the City?
Like 1,000 times.
So there's that when Charlotte wants to go, and I think she's still married to
the Scottish dude, Trey.
Yeah, and they go to the Russian woman or somebody, a sex educator, and they learn how to do the lingam massage, and then Miranda cops it in the fringe in the face.
I mean, that show was a huge part of my sexual education. You know, huge. And now it seems tame. And obviously lots of people now saying it's quite un-PC, but people don't know that, you know, back when I was watching that, how old was I? About maybe 25 or whatever. That was, that was life-changing. There would be nothing on television like that. No one had talked about masturbation or dildos or, you know, vibrators or anything. And it was illuminating for me to watch that.
The very first time, and I didn't stumble across it until maybe, it must have been the second season. But I just channel flicked one night, and I think I was just gobsmacked that I heard the C word on Australian television. I thought, bloody hell! So, and let alone American television. So, I love that series. I watched the new series and I just thought they went a bit over the top a little bit in Charlotte's character.
They were all a bit exaggerated, and obviously they were trying to be extremely woke but you know, they're doing their best. I think the thing is, it was of its time, and I'm not sure they should have resurrected it, because it was of its time, and I'm not sure that, like, you know, sometimes you watch comedy shows, even 10 years ago, and they were of their time, and they don't work today because sensibilities have changed and humor has changed, and sometimes things need to be left where they were. But I'll always be eternally grateful for that show, because it gave women a lot of permission.
Yes.
In a world where we had no permission. So I think it was fantastic, you know.
That's right. Yep. No, thank God. My daughter was around 13, 14, and I let her watch that with me. And the episode where Charlotte had never looked at her vulva.
The mirror.
We watched that one together. Yeah. And I said to her, if you haven't already looked, make sure you look. It's part of your body. You need to know how it works. So I didn't even know I had a vagina. Here we go. Vagina. Is that on your card?
Vagina. Well, no, we did vulva. We haven't done vagina. I think there needs to be a bingo card. I think that's your next social media. I think it'd be hilarious.
Yes. I think I have to do that. I can remember taking a tampon out of my mum's purse or the bathroom and trying to put it in. And I couldn't get it in, and it was hurting. And it was some time later that I realised, or I found out, I think, that I was putting it into my rectum or my anus rather than my vagina, because I didn't even know I had a vagina. So your mum
didn't have a chat with you and explain any of this stuff?
No, there was no sex education. I came home from school one day, I think I was maybe 13, 14, and on my pillow was a book called Everything a Good Teenage Girl Should Know, or Everything a Teenage Girl Should Know. And that was the standard sex education.
Mine was a book by Judy Blume called Forever. Have you read the Judy Blume book, Forever? Oh, my God, Susan.
No.
Susan, you need to go and buy that today, because that book is like a lot. If the listeners are listening, I'm sure you are. It's Judy Blume, Forever, and it's about a girl who goes on holiday and she has sex with a bloke, and he calls his penis Ralph. And I know it sounds really, really bad, but it was the first time I'd ever read about someone having sex. And it's handled quite well. Judy Blume is an excellent writer. She's written lots of books about that awkward teenage period. And every woman of my generation read Forever and read about Ralph. I might actually go back and reread it after this episode. But that was my introduction.
Oh,
I don't know. Mum and Dad definitely talked about where babies come from, you know, things like that. And, you know, when I was very young, they used to walk around naked and stuff. And, you know, they weren't inhibited in that way. But they never talked about sex in a kind of, and I think this is the missing bit, talks about sex in any kind of pleasurable way. They never talked about masturbation or anything like that. There was none of that stuff. Like, sex can be enjoyable, sex should be fun, you know, There was none of that. Because I think, you know, that generation were all about trying to stop you having sex for as long as possible. So there was no risk of you, you know, rather than saying, have it, enjoy your body, but be safe and don't do it with people who you don't want to do it with. So I think that's changed a lot. The way I talk to my son about sex, he's 13 and obviously now would die if I talked to him about it. But we have talked about it a lot. We've talked about porn. We've talked about masturbation. We've talked about permission. He's very savvy in a way that I wasn't. And, you know, I've definitely had the conversation with him around, you should enjoy it. Like, masturbate as much as you like. As long as you kind of do it in private, enjoy it. It's like one of the few free pleasures we have. So go for it. You know, you can't wear it out. And I think it's so important to say that, you know, to give people the permission. Again, permission is my word of the show.
I think that's probably one of the reasons behind that pleasure gap for women, that women as young girls, there's no open conversations around sex and pleasure, and that it's okay to pleasure yourself, that it's okay to have pleasure during sex. It's your right to have pleasure. So I'm hoping that things are starting to change, and it's great to hear that you're...
Yeah, I mean, I think we're of such a, you know, we're ancient, you and I think we're of a different generation. I mean, I think, you know, you mentioned vibrators earlier. Like, I think probably most women now would have one, and there's no shame about it. It's talked about on all the reality shows, and you know, it's on TikTok and it's on Instagram Reels. And thank God, you know, I thank God for it's important, you know. So people like you do a good job, lady, because I think While in the younger
Thank you.
generation is much more free, much more discussion. I think a lot of much more pressure to look a certain way and be every girl needs to be a porn star. But I think for our generation, it's still so taboo. It's still so taboo. And discussing again, what you mentioned at the beginning about how your sexuality changes as you're starting to go through menopause and how there's a bit of a loss there. And I'm hoping it comes back again once I get through the other side. And you're changing body and trying to feel sexy when everything is drooping and sagging. And, you know, it's important to talk about that because I'm not ready. I mean, the truth is there was a point in my marriage where I realized, I thought, I am never going to be kissed like that again. And I'm never going to feel that feeling again. And I am 44. And I just have to accept that because the common story was that, well, all marriages end up sexless. Just accept it. At least you've got companionship. And my partner used to say, like, you know, I think you're expecting too much and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, am I? And it was obviously a huge risk to break that relationship and start a new one. But it's simply not true. I don't think relationships have to be sexless. And I don't think you should accept that. I think there is, I don't know. I'm glad I didn't give up. Because it looked like a very bleak future to say for the rest of your life, you will never have that kind of aspect again. It's very depressing to me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's important. I really do believe being sexually intimate is vital to keeping a relationship alive, full of joy and vitality.
We're just glorified monkeys, really.
Gee.
You know, the bonobo monkeys are always at it, aren't they? And we are just glorified bonobo monkeys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think intimacy is important. And as you said, sex doesn't necessarily mean this, that, and the other. There can be all aspects of it. But that physical human touch, that skin on skin is important. And I think it often gets you through when things in the day-to-day life are a bit tough. If you can come together and have that intimacy, it's really important, as well as emotional intimacy and intellectual intimacy and all that other type of intimacy. But it's part of the pie, isn't it? And if it's missing, I think
yes.
I think you get quite. I think we don't understand. They say the biggest killer these days is not cancer, it's not heart disease, it's loneliness. Because simply as humans, we are meant to live in tribes. We are meant to have human touch and contact. And if we are deprived of that, the body goes into shutdown because you've been rejected from the tribe, and therefore you're surplus to requirements. And it's almost like the body starts to shut down. So we need it. And I think we don't prioritize it enough. And back to your original point about business, I think a lot of women are putting so much energy into being perfect mothers, so much energy into having this amazing 6-figure business. And then they kind of do sometimes neglect their relationships and then wonder why things aren't tickety-boo with their partner. Because it's really hard to be all these things, isn't it?
It is. So I think you should be true to yourself and put yourself first. My philosophy is stay connected to your physical intimacy of your body, that it's okay to masturbate and self-pleasure. That is self-care when you do that, whether you do it alone or with somebody else, doesn't matter. But I think, you know, apart from, I mean, why do we have a clitoris? It's for pleasure. And I think that's our stress relief button as well. So, Kate, I just want to come back to what you said about, you know, education, that when you want to roller skate, you'll go and hire somebody, and how you went to your blowjob class. I really believe in that as well. I think it's all about educate, communicate, masturbate. There's the 3 things that you need to improve your sex life. And I've got an article coming out about that. Interestingly, on LinkedIn, on my company page and my personal page, I posted up about, I said something along the lines of, I'm sure every business person reading this has at some point engaged a professional service to improve their skills. Would you engage a sex educator to improve your intimacy skills? And that article has had quite a few views, but no one's liked or commented on it.
People are terrified. It's funny because you'd think no one wants to be seen as bad at stuff, especially men. You know, that's a big part of their ego. Why would I need education? I know what I'm doing. And if I don't, then I'm somehow emasculated. But everyone can learn, you know, everyone can get better at stuff. And sometimes it's easier for a third party to explain it to you than your partner to try and say, left a bit, right a bit, harder, softer. You know, it can be easier to, and also just to introduce new ideas in and new approaches. And, you know, it can become very steak and potatoes if you just kind of, you know, and I think as well, again, sweeping generalization, a lot of men are quite happy with steak and potatoes. Unfortunately, I'm not. I like a different meal every night, and I want to do different, you know, and so, you know, that to keep it interesting, I need all of that. That's me. Might be not be someone else, but I like the sort of the variety. I don't want to do the same thing. You know, sometimes you're like, you're there and you're like, okay, well, he's going to do this first, then he's going to go there, then he's going to do, and I can see it. And it's like, change it up, start there instead of there. Let's start at the end. Yeah. Get off script. Yeah.
Do something different.
It's great.
I loved what you said about having dishonest sex too earlier on. I've had lots of dishonest sex, and I have faked an orgasm quite a few times. I found my orgasm was very much connected to my emotional connection to that person. So before I got married, I had never had an orgasm with a sexual partner, ever. Should have been nominated for an Oscar for all the performances that I gave. And then when I got married, and I won't talk too much about that marriage, but I did end up having orgasm during sex. So I think I felt emotionally safe at that time. Certainly not judged. I had no issues about how I felt about my body at that time. And then after I ended that marriage and put myself on a bit of a sexual journey about a year after, once I'd sorted my head out and my heart, and I ticked off so many things off my bucket list that I wanted to try. And I'm so glad for that experience, because now I know, you know, I've done them. They're not for me, or I did enjoy it, but that's okay. I've done it. I don't need it anymore. So, but the education part still continues, and we did a course called Pleasuring the Vulva. And wow, you know, my darling is now the master of my vulva.
I hope he's got a t-shirt that says that. I hope you've got him one. You are the master of my vulva. It's hilarious. I love the way you talk about all of this. I am at once enjoying it, and inside I can feel everything clenching because it's uncomfortable, and it's 9:00, and it's funny, isn't it? It's like we talk about in business having a money mindset, and everyone has an opinion on money. It makes you have a visceral reaction when people talk about money or debt or making money or whatever. Same with sex. We are conditioned. You know, and no matter how free we think we are and how far we progress, there are certain things that will still make our sphincters clench with embarrassment, you know? So this is an interesting conversation for me. I'm going to need to lie down and a nap after this, Susan.
That's all right. I was watching Kitty Flanagan last night on television. I didn't catch the name of her performance, but I'll have to go back and watch it. But she was talking about how her family, and they don't like talking about sex. And when something comes up on the television, she said, it's like we're all in sync. Everyone will get up and suddenly want a cup of tea.
Absolutely. And this is why, you know, that painful thing of watching stuff with your parents and it goes sexy. So, you know, everything has got sex in it now on Netflix. And me and my son watch a lot of shows together. And although he's 13 and I won't appreciate me talking about him at all, so I won't do it for long. But, you know, when something sexy comes on the screen, we both laugh about it. And we're both like, fast forward. And then sometimes we fast forward just to the middle of the bit, like the worst bit. We're both like, no. And yes, they actually rewinded. So we saw it twice. But it's a laugh, you know, we're laughing. And it's like, of course it's awkward to watch this stuff with your family, but it's also hilarious. And I think humor in sex is so important. It's not so serious. We'll take it so seriously, and I think, because recently I've been a bit more reticent, me and my partners have had a lot of laughs about that, and the routine and the plinth and thank God, because otherwise it'd just be kind of weird silence and you wouldn't know, and just rolling over and going to sleep and hoping and pretending to be asleep. Instead, I kind of am honest about it. And that again is a rejection of the performance and a rejection of the expectation, and just saying, I don't fancy it, It's good to be able to say that.
Yeah. I want to tell you, some of my best laughs have been during sex at the end. Like we have this, I don't know if I can share this.
Will I be able to take this?
PC.
Will I be able to take this, Susan? Am I going to panic? Am I going to have a panic attack when you say this?
No. They're just, my partner's very good at doing accents and voices. So he'll say something to me either during or at the end, and it just has me in stitches, absolute stitches. So I probably won't divulge. I think
keep that between yourselves. But it's important. It's important to laugh about it and to talk about it. And I love talking about it. Like I love talking about it in advance and building up that tension, because as I said, we don't see each other very often. The preamble is really, really important. And, my partner never seems to tire of a boob picture. I'll tell you a little secret thing with us. The avocado is obviously the symbol of a boob in my world, because it looks like a middle-aged boob.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be an apple for someone else, but I'm definitely avocado now. And so, sometimes we've got a little emergency signals, and sometimes they'll just send me an avocado, and then wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I have to send a picture of my boob. Not naked, it could be in a jumper, but it's just stupid. It's stupid and playful. And I want to always try and maintain that as much as we can. It's fun.
Yeah, you have to. It's that's part of the dance with each other, isn't it? And staying connected. It's like you're weaving. I always think about relationships as weaving a cloak that, like, I have a cloak that I'm immersed in trust with this person that I love, and every action that we've done in our lives, like our holidays together, crying together, sharing grief, sharing anger, all those things, everything's weaved into this cloak. And, I've got it around me. And, we have it's our little comedy routine that we have with each other. And those little in-jokes that only the two of us will get. And we can look at each other and go,
and that's just such a lovely feeling to have that little bond, to be partners in crime, and to sort of be able to sit and talk relentlessly about your own relationship, which feels incredibly self-indulgent, and anyone else listening would be like, ugh! But that's absolutely lovely. That's what I always wanted, to have that feeling of being mad about someone, and for it not to ebb away. But I think the realization I've had, and often people say that second marriages or third marriages are more successful, obviously, because you come into it with different expectations and different terms, and you know what part you played in the breakup of previous relationships. And I'm very clear on my part and what I did and what I will not do again, and also what I stand for and what I won't stand for. And that's just, I think, part of getting older. There's lots of negatives to getting older, but that's one of the huge positives. You know yourself, and you know what you want, and you're much more self-aware.
I love becoming older. I say to people, you don't need a note from your mum anymore to do anything. You really do own your own power and own your own time. Make it worthy. Do something with your life, whether it's investing time and support within your family or volunteering. But be kind to yourself first and fill your cup so that you can help fill each other's cups. So, gee, Kate, well, look, I have loved chatting with you this morning. It's And thank you for being so open. Now, I want to just bring your fabulous book, because this was a big part of my business journey. I like the fact that you called yourself a misfit entrepreneur. And I can't help but think, what a sexy cover photo. Look at that.
It's a lady called, look at my boobies. I know. It's an amazing photographer called Sherbet Birdie. She does 1950s pin-up photography. I've got those shots. I went back and did a whole nother set. I don't know if you've ever seen my Wonder Woman picture of me in a Wonder Woman costume. She did that as well. And I'll go back again because, God, does that make you feel sad? I mean, gosh, there's a little bit of Photoshop going on there. And in reality, someone had to hold up my legs because I've got no abdominal strength. They've been Photoshopped out. But... No, I was holding them up, but it was like for a brief second. She's a mastermind, but I love that photo, and I love having those photos because I'll have those when I'm old and grey and baggy and remember, and funnily enough, when I had those done, I didn't feel sexy at all in my life at all. And that's why I went back and did those Wonder Woman shots because I did feel sexy then. That was when I started my new relationship and I felt wonderful and powerful and, And it took to finish up, the book is good. The book is a bit old now, to be honest. And I think I've moved on a lot since I wrote that. It's about 4 years old and I'm writing a new one at the moment. But, it took for me to break away from that relationship and spend a good year just being myself. I went to a lot of conferences. I spoke at about 40 events. And then I met someone. It wasn't like I met someone and then I found myself. And that's important to me. Yes, he changed to help me, but I was already on that journey towards being me and embracing who I was when I met him. And I think for anybody listening, I talk to a lot of women as you do. And there's so many women who are really unhappy in their relationship, really, really unhappy and trapped there maybe for financial reasons or guilt about children. And well, I'm not saying everyone should immediately leave their partner and run away and discover their vulva. I'm just thinking that you should. It's important to realize that you're allowed to want these things. You're allowed to. I don't know how to put it. You'll probably put it better than me, but with so much guilt around women, so much guilt for women about not enjoying themselves and being a martyr. They eating the burnt chop. That's that. I remember that line. I did a campaign once for Special K and an advertising campaign, and the whole concept was about how women will always eat the burnt chop. If there's a plate of meat, I'm a vegetarian, so it makes sense to me, but a plate of meat, you'll give everyone else the good bit and you'll eat the burnt bit because that's what women do, and it's like we don't want to eat the burnt chop when it comes to business or our families or our sex life. No more burnt chops, okay?
Yeah, and that's a good analogy. Mind you, I do give the best.
Good on you, Susan.
Most of the time. Yep. It's about prioritizing yourself and believing that you're worthy to be at the top of the list. Really, that's the bottom line. So, well, gee, Miss Toon, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you very much for your time this morning. And I'll make sure we put everything in the show notes for people to explore you and explore your fabulous book, Confessions of a Misfit Entrepreneur. And absolutely
thank you so much for having me on. It's been a hoot. As I said, I'm going to have a coffee and a lie down, but thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Maven's Private Diaries. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and took away some wisdom, chuckles or inspiration. Let me know your thoughts, either positive or constructive. You could leave me a review on your listening app. So this podcast is the property of Susan Jarvis, me, the Maven. For inquiries, please visit www.thespicyboudoir.com. Thank you for listening to the Maven's Private Diaries. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and took away some wisdom, chuckles or inspiration. Let me know your thoughts, either positive or constructive, you could leave me a review on your listening app. So this podcast is the property of Susan Jarvis, me, the Maven. For inquiries, please visit www.thespicyboudoir.com.